Big news out of the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of the United States of America just issued a rare statement on President Trump's call to impeach the judge in his Alien Enemies Act case. I want to go straight to Paula Reed. Paula, wow, this is a very big deal.
This is a huge deal. Here you have Chief Justice John Roberts appearing to push back on statements President Trump made earlier today, suggesting that a judge, James Boasberg, who of course temporarily blocked deportations by the Trump administration, or at least tried to, should be impeached. And here the Chief Justice writes, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose." Now, this is, of course, a very short statement, but it says so much, Dana.
This is a major moment. Chief Justice John Roberts is pushing back after President Trump suggested that Judge James Boasberg should be impeached for blocking the administration's deportation flights. Roberts made the message clear. Impeachment is not the answer when a president disagrees with a judge's ruling. That is what the appeals process is for. The statement was short, but the warning was unmistakable.
Because earlier today, in a Truth Social post, President Trump sort of went on a tangent about how angry he was at this judge and saying this judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached. And this comes just several days after Boasberg tried to temporarily block some deportations by the Trump administration, and the Trump administration did not abide by his order to turn around 2 planes that had already taken off. And in a pretty heated hearing yesterday, the Justice Department insisted that they did not need to abide by the judge's oral order from the bench, something the judge took issue with. And then even when the judge had issued a written order, they still did not comply. And in court yesterday, they were arguing that the reason they did not need to comply with that written order is because they said that President Trump has a broad executive authority when it comes to foreign affairs. And the reason that this whole case is significant, Dana, is because this is not just another test of Trump's expansive use of executive power. It is also a test of the extent to which he and his lawyers believe he can be checked by the courts. So here, Judge Boasberg getting some support from really the most senior justice in the land.
This was the moment the ground shifted under American democracy. Not in some slow, distant way that historians might debate years from now. This happened in real time, in front of the country, as a direct warning from the highest levels of the judicial branch. A sitting justice of the United States Supreme Court, one of the few people entrusted with protecting the constitutional order, was now being pulled into a confrontation no one could ignore.
Yeah, your eyes are going wide, David Chalian.
It's astonishing, and I don't want to diminish the importance of the specific case that
but this
Paul
is
is
about
saying.
that.
It is, obviously, but it's so much bigger than that, too. This is, I just want to step back here, because there are so many people, I think, that said in the last couple days of, well, are we in a constitutional crisis or not? And if are they really defying an order? Or let's parse whether it was a written order or a verbal order. It's too early. It's too soon to get worked up about this or concerned about this. And John Roberts, who does not choose to jump into the political fray at all if he doesn't have to, says, no, it's not too soon. I am the guy that sits atop one of the 3 co-equal branches as designed by the Constitution, and it's not too soon for me to say, back off, Mr. President. You should not be talking about impeaching a district judge, a district-level judge, because you don't like the ruling.
A Supreme Court justice stood up in the middle of a live event, turned away from the President of the United States, and walked out. Not quietly, not privately, in front of cameras, witnesses, and the entire country. And this was not because of a schedule change or some sudden emergency. The justice walked out because the president was standing at the podium openly attacking the Constitution itself, the very document that gives the Supreme Court its authority, its legitimacy, and its purpose. This was not a rumor. This was not a leak whisper from anonymous officials. This was a public moment, unfolding in real time, and the message was impossible to miss.
That's not the way the last 2 centuries have worked. And so I think, he doesn't get involved very often. The fact that he's chosen to step in here, you see he's responding to what Trump put in that Truth Social this morning.
Right, which I'll get to in a second.
But also just the aggressiveness to push back on Trump this way, choosing to speak and speaking the way he did in this statement. We should all take note of this moment.
Okay, I'm not sure if we have it yet because we just got it to put up on the screen, but I'm just going to read it one more time, and the it being John Roberts' statement, which we just got a few moments ago. For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that the impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision.
The president was openly attacking the Constitution, the very document that gives the Supreme Court its power and legitimacy. This was not a rumor or anonymous leak. It was happening in public, in real time. And that is why John Roberts stepped in. Roberts rarely enters political fights, but this time his message was clear. This is not too soon, and the president needs to back off. You do not impeach a judge simply because you dislike the ruling.
Yeah, Barbara, what do you make of this response? This statement issued by the Chief Justice essentially pushing back on these calls for the impeachment of the judge in this case.
Well, truly extraordinary. We do not see statements like this issued by justices of the Supreme Court, but I'm really heartened to see Chief Justice John Roberts take this up. He is a conservative. This is his court. People sometimes think of this court as being supportive of President Trump, so it is very reassuring to me to see Chief Justice Roberts take this stand in favor of the judiciary, because, of course, our government is one of 3 co-equal branches. And while voters may have voted for Donald Trump because they wanted to see aggressive enforcement of the immigration laws, they did not vote for him to do it lawlessly, nor could they, because our Constitution says it is the province of the judiciary to review the execution of the law. So imagine what we have here. Invocation of the Alien Enemy Act, which is supposed to apply only during wartime or invasion. Very unclear that we're in any sort of invasion that would meet the legal definition. So that's the first issue. The second is, who are these people and do they meet the definition? Are they non-citizens? Are they members of this gang? It could very well be that they've scooped up people who don't even belong under this order. That's the importance of judicial review. Ultimately, maybe they can be deported under this, but only if a judge is able to make a ruling in favor of the government after this legal challenge was filed.
So, Susan, Barbara touched on how the politics aren't supposed to matter here when it comes to the legality, but President Trump is posting today that he's just doing what the voters wanted him to do. His hardline immigration tactics are what helped get him reelected. Recent polling showing voters approve of his handling of the issue so far. Does that give the president political cover in a way to test the limits of checks and balances?
Well, the White House certainly thinks it does. This is a fight the White House is happy to have. President Trump's approval rating on handling immigration higher than his approval rating on any other major topic, significantly higher than on the economy, where his approval rating has sagged. He has sort of unsympathetic victims here, people who the administration says are members of a Venezuelan gang. So the White House thinks that this is an argument they will win in the court of public opinion, even if they lose it in actual judicial courts, Anna.
Barb, in the past, ICE has said simply having a certain tattoo is proof enough to tie someone to a gang.
This is no longer just a fight over one judge or one ruling. It is a direct confrontation between Donald Trump and the judicial branch. After Trump attacked Judge James Boasberg and called for his impeachment, Chief Justice John Roberts stepped in with a rare warning. His message was simple. If a president disagrees with a judge, he can appeal. He cannot threaten impeachment because he dislikes the decision.
Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts issued a rare but not unprecedented statement today following President Trump's call for a federal district judge who ruled against the administration to be impeached. Roberts said, quote, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose, unquote. CBS News Chief Legal Correspondent Jan Crawford is here. Jan, how important is this?
It's important. I mean, this is a serious issue for the Chief Justice and has been for some time. Remember, it was just in December when he actually, I think, was even stronger in some of that language in his annual year-end report when he said attempts to intimidate judges, such as by calling for their impeachment, are inappropriate and should be vigorously opposed. And why is that? Because it undermines people's confidence in the judicial system, but it also potentially is dangerous for judges and their security. He noted that those kind of, overheated rhetoric could trigger dangerous reactions by other people, and pointed out that there have been, in the past 5 years alone, more than 1,000 serious incidents of threats against federal judges. So it's a serious concern. The Chief Justice has long been a defender of judicial independence, but the timing of this today, when President Trump put that on Truth Social, that he thought Jeb Boasberg, who's overseeing that case about deporting the Venezuelan migrants, should be impeached. The chief then came out not too long after that with his statement saying calls for impeachment, as you pointed out, are inappropriate and follow the appeals process.
That is why this moment matters. Trump is not just criticizing a ruling, he is challenging the independence of the courts and testing whether presidential power can be checked at all. The American system was built on one basic idea. No one is above the law, not even the president. If court orders become optional, the rule of law begins to collapse.
Supreme Court Chief Justice is saying, not on my watch. He is interfering with calls to impeach a federal judge. Chief Justice John Roberts says he has rejected a demand from President Trump to remove a judge who ruled against his deportation plans. Roberts says for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to a disagreement concerning a judicial decision. So you can't just kick someone out because you don't like what they say, according to this judge. So this is the latest in a call from the Trump administration to have this judge removed. It surrounds a ruling on deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador.
Roberts' statement was short, but the warning was clear. Judges cannot be treated like political enemies simply because they rule against the White House. This is bigger than one case. It is about whether America still has a constitution or whether the power now belongs to whoever is willing to ignore it.